Throughout her life, Her Majesty the Queen, my beloved mother, was an inspiration, an example to me and to all my family.
Hidden in a quiet room deep inside the royal palace, there was a letter that no one touched for years. Queen Elizabeth wrote it just for her son, King Charles, before she passed away. She asked that it be opened only when the time felt right. Now, the letter has finally been opened, and what was found there is truly unforgettable. Would you like to know what's inside the letter? Join us as we uncover the letter that served as a guide to the royal family. Finding the letter. Everything became still. It was like the quiet that followed felt deep, and the silence after something big had ended. When Queen Elizabeth II passed away, the world seemed to stop for a moment. Flags were lowered. People gathered around their TVs. Everyone felt something heavy in their hearts, as if a door to the past had gently closed. But far away, tucked inside the peaceful Balmoral castle where the Queen took her last breath, there was a small red box waiting. These red boxes weren't just decoration. They were part of her everyday life. Every morning, she received one filled with important government documents, updates, and decisions needing her attention. Even in her final days, when her body grew weak, she kept opening them. She never let go of her responsibilities. Her sense of duty didn't stop, even as her time on Earth was running out. But the red box that was found after her passing held something unexpected. When her longtime private secretary, Sir Edward Young, opened it, he saw more than the usual documents. Inside were two sealed envelopes. One had his name, the other was meant for King Charles. These weren't official letters. They weren't meant for politicians or the government. They were personal. They were from a mother to her son, from a queen to the man about to take her place. At first, nobody really knew what to think. Some believed it was simply a heartfelt goodbye from a mother. Others guessed it might contain her last wishes, perhaps even something serious or meaningful. Quiet whispers began to spread. Was the message emotional, or did it hold something more? Could it change anything? No one could say for sure. The full letter wasn't shared with the public. Most of it still remains private today, but tiny bits of what was written have slipped out over time, whispered by those close to the royal household. And what these tiny pieces reveal is really touching. It's hard not to picture it. A woman known around the globe, someone who wore the crown for over 70 years, sitting quietly by herself, holding a pen. She knew the end was near, and she chose to write a final letter, not to the people of the world, but to her child. This wasn't a cold or distant message. It was gentle, it had warmth, it felt real, filled with love and truth. Even though it came from a queen, it sounded like a mother's voice. Now, let's unveil what everyone believes the letter was all about. What information does the letter contain? The letter is believed to have begun with words that could melt any heart. She told him that if he was reading the letter, it meant she was no longer there. Then she expressed how proud she was of him, not as a king, but as a person. She remembered all he had faced, the heartbreak of losing Diana, the constant pressure from the media, the many years he had waited to become king. She saw the weight he had carried and how he never gave up. She told him that even though the road had been rough, it shaped him into the man he had become. And in her heart, she believed he was ready. Then came the part that truly stood out. She wrote something that gave many people chills. She said his crown would feel heavier than hers ever did, not because of what's happening in the world, but because of how many people would be watching. That small line carried so much meaning. It wasn't about the crown itself. It was about how much pressure he would be under, how closely the world would be looking at every step he took. And in that moment, we're reminded that even queens have worries for their children, that even someone who ruled through wars, changes, and celebrations could still sit down and write something so personal and moving. This wasn't just a royal document. It was a goodbye, a blessing, and a mother's soft whisper across time, telling her son that he could do it and that she believed in him, that even though she wouldn't be beside him anymore, her love would always be there, probably hidden in ink, sealed in an envelope, or forever tucked in a red box. In the world we live in today, being a royal isn't just about wearing a crown or following tradition. It's about being constantly watched, judged, and talked about on every news channel, social media post, and viral video. Queen Elizabeth understood this very well. She had seen how the role had changed, how the public wanted more than just ceremony. They wanted someone real, someone who could lead with kindness, show honesty, and connect with the people. In her private letter to Charles, she gently reminded him of this truth. She told him that while the crown had deep roots in history, the person wearing it had to live in the present. She softly urged him to trust his feelings, not just follow rules. She gave him the courage to speak in his own voice, not simply repeat hers. That one line alone showed how much she trusted him. It wasn't just about passing on power. It was about giving her son permission to be himself as a king. She also shared her thoughts on what it really means to rule. To her, it wasn't about being above others, but about serving them. She said being a true leader meant listening with an open heart and staying connected to the people. As the letter went on, she became more personal. She spoke about family, about the joys and the struggles. She talked about the grandchildren, about Camilla, about love that was lost and then found again. She quietly mentioned the things she had kept inside, especially the moments she wished she had handled differently. She admitted that she hadn't always been the kind of mother she wanted to be, but she had always been there, watching, caring, and praying that Charles could feel her love, even when she didn't say it out loud. Her words were full of emotion, not just instructions or advice. This was more than just a note from a queen. It was the last message from a mother to her child. And in those few pages, she showed the world something powerful. We often look at kings and queens as distant figures, more like statues than real people. But this letter reminded everyone that behind the royal titles are human beings, filled with memories, feelings, and quiet struggles. She didn't write this as a ruler. She wrote it as a mom. For Charles, reading that letter must have been one of the most emotional moments of his life. He had waited for many years to become king, and during all that time, he stood in the shadow of a queen who was respected all over the world. Taking her place seemed like something no one could truly prepare for. But her letter gave him something more precious than any crown. It gave him comfort, it gave him confidence, and it gave him her final blessing. It told him that he didn't need to copy her path. He just needed to walk his own. By just going through the letters, you can confirm that this was exactly what King Charles needed, since everything seems to be going sideways from the very day of his reign. The effects of the letter. Experts who study the royal family believe this letter will go down in history as one of the most heartfelt and meaningful messages ever written by a British monarch. Not because it exposed any big secrets or made shocking statements, but because it was so honest. Some of the phrases in that letter are already being remembered and repeated. The part where she spoke about how heavy the crown would feel. The part where she talked about watching without always speaking. These lines are becoming a part of her legacy. This letter helped people see that behind every perfect royal picture is a person carrying deep emotions, private choices, and many sacrifices. And Queen Elizabeth's last letter gathered all of that into a few simple pages written by hand. For King Charles, it's more than just a memory. It's a guide. He may keep it in a quiet, safe place, but it likely stays with him every single day, not in his pocket, but in his heart. Losing a mother is a sorrow no crown can erase. But when that mother is someone who led a nation for more than 70 years, the sadness becomes even deeper. It becomes a responsibility, a legacy, something that can't be measured. And now that legacy rests on Charles's shoulders. He knows what it means to wait. He waited longer than anyone else in British history to become king. And during all those years, he lived under the shadow of a monarch who seemed larger than life. So naturally, people wondered, could he do it? Could he rise to the moment? This letter might be the answer to that question. It shows that he doesn't need to be a copy of his mother. He just needs to lead with the heart she believed in. If her letter was full of kindness, encouragement, and truth, then it's possible that Charles now feels more ready than ever, not just to serve, but to lead in his own way. There's a difference between wearing a crown and carrying a blessing. And when that blessing comes from a mother like Queen Elizabeth, a woman known for her strength, grace, and wisdom, it makes all the difference. Her final words, although written for one person, speak to everyone. It's like a soft voice from the past that still guides the present. That letter wasn't just her goodbye, it was a gift, a final lesson, a quiet truth that continues to echo even after she is gone. While we celebrate the Queen's effort to write this lovely letter, let's not forget that there are more pressing issues in the royal family. So stay with us as we unveil the ones that will interest you. Princess Anne's revelation about the Buckingham Palace. 1445 to 1450. Princess Anne recently shared an emotional message that opened people's eyes to the truth about her life in the palace. For many, living in a royal palace seems like a dream, filled with beauty, riches, and comfort. But for Anne, it was often the opposite. She revealed that behind the shining walls and royal image, her life was full of quiet pain, deep stress, and a strong feeling of being alone. Her goodbye to Buckingham Palace wasn't just about leaving a building, it was about telling the truth she had hidden for so long. And what she said caught everyone off guard. Anne explained that the palace, while grand and famous, never truly felt like home to her. It was a place where she often felt stuck, like a bird in a golden cage. She lived a life where everything she did was watched closely by the world. Being a royal wasn't just about wearing beautiful clothes and attending important events, it was about giving up your own happiness to meet the expectations of others. She admitted that even though she had everything money could buy, there was still something missing inside her heart. The freedom to live for herself was never truly there. As she reflected on her years behind the palace doors, Anne didn't hide how hard it was for her. She had to keep smiling for the cameras, even when she was tired or sad. The life people admired from the outside was, in truth, a life full of duties that left little room for her to breathe. She shared that being born into royalty didn't mean you had it all. In fact, sometimes it meant having less freedom, less peace, and less control over your own choices. Anne also opened up about how lonely she felt inside the palace. Even with staff and family around her, she often felt like no one truly saw how she was feeling. The palace was big and full of history, but for her it was also a place where her voice was often unheard. She had been seen by many as the strong, quiet royal who never complained. But deep down, she carried a heavy emotional load that only she truly understood. Through her heartfelt farewell, Anne made it clear that her decision to walk away from the palace was about more than just moving out. It was about taking back her life. She no longer wanted to live under a spotlight that didn't let her be herself. She was tired of pretending everything was perfect when it wasn't. This moment was her way of saying she was done hiding how she truly felt. Anne's story touched many hearts because it gave a rare, honest look into what it really means to live as a royal. People have always been drawn to the royal family, thinking their lives are full of joy and beauty. But Anne's words changed that picture. She let everyone see the personal cost of living under constant judgment and pressure. She reminded the world that behind every smiling royal is a person who might be struggling in silence. Her farewell made people think differently about royalty. It raised questions about how much pressure is placed on members of the royal family and how little room they have to just be themselves. Anne's voice, once hidden behind tradition and duty, now stood strong and clear. Her courage to speak out gave many people a deeper understanding of what life behind palace walls can really be like. What comes next for the royal family remains to be seen. But one thing is clear, Anne's honesty has started a conversation that could lead to change. Her experience shows that even in the most privileged lives, there can be hidden battles. By sharing her truth, she not only found her own freedom, but also opened the door for others to speak up too. Her story will be remembered not just as a royal farewell, but as a powerful reminder that sometimes the hardest battles are the ones no one else can see. Leaving the royal scene. Princess Anne's heartfelt exit from Buckingham Palace didn't just touch hearts, it uncovered a side of royal life that many never imagined. What the public saw as a simple goodbye was actually something much deeper. It wasn't about just stepping away from a place. Anne was walking away from a strict way of life that had controlled her for years. Her words, full of emotion, let people see what she had kept hidden for so long. And once she spoke, it was clear this decision came from years of quiet struggle. For Anne, this wasn't a sudden move. She admitted that her desire to leave had been growing for a long time. Even though she had always been respected in the royal family, she often felt like she didn't truly belong. Buckingham Palace, with all its beauty and history, didn't feel like a home to her anymore. It had turned into a place that made her feel more distant than ever. Through her speech, it became clear that while the palace stood for duty and sacrifice, it didn't offer her the peace or joy she had been searching for. She had been smiling on the outside, but but deep down, she had been struggling with a sense of emptiness. Anne's departure raised many questions. Was she simply tired of pretending to be happy? Or was she sending a quiet message to the world that being a royal is far more complicated than it seems? Her honest words gave people a rare chance to understand what really happens behind palace doors. The life of a royal, which many see as full of luxury and comfort, came with heavy expectations that often left no room for personal freedom. Anne's story broke that illusion. She made it clear that even royals feel stuck and worn out. This bold move from Anne may be more than just a personal choice. It could be a quiet protest against the unbending rules of royal life. And now, people are beginning to wonder if others in the family feel the same way. If Anne, known for her grace and loyalty, could take such a big step, what does that mean for the rest of the royals? Her decision opened a door for a new kind of conversation, one that questions whether the royal image is worth the personal cost. By stepping away, Anne didn't just leave a palace behind, she claimed back her life. Her decision was more than brave, it was inspiring. She showed that even someone born into duty could still choose happiness, and now her actions may spark a change that reaches far beyond the palace gates. Others may now feel encouraged to speak up or step out of the shadows too. This moment in Anne's life will be remembered. It's not just because she left a place known for its power and beauty, but because she reminded the world that even those who seem to have everything can feel trapped. Her goodbye has created waves, and its effect may last for generations to come. Whether other royals follow in her footsteps or not, Anne's farewell has become a turning point. It has changed how people see the royal family, and it all started with a woman finally choosing to live on her own terms. Changing the royal rules and traditions. Princess Anne's choice to walk away from Buckingham Palace isn't just about her personal life, it shows something bigger is going on inside the royal family. For a very long time, being a royal meant following strict rules, carrying out duties without question, and living a life shaped by tradition rather than choice. But Anne's emotional goodbye seems to hint that things are slowly changing. Her decision may be the first sign that the pressure of royal life is starting to crack the surface. Could this mean that the royal family is finally facing the reality of today's world? Anne didn't just step away from a role. Her departure seems to ask an important question. How should the royal family work in modern times? Today, people are speaking more openly about their mental health and personal happiness, and Anne's heartfelt words suggest that even the royals, with all their titles and privileges, go through the same emotional struggles. The public has always admired the royal family for staying calm and graceful, but Anne's actions prove that even they reach a breaking point. It's hard not to wonder, could this be the beginning of a royal shift, one where personal feelings matter just as much as tradition? What makes Anne's choice so powerful is how it connects with the quiet struggles other younger royals have been facing. We've seen Prince Harry and Meghan Markle take a big step back from royal life, and younger family members are now under more pressure than ever. Slowly, it's starting to look like the royal family may be heading toward a major change. Anne's departure might be the first door opening to conversations that have never been had before, conversations about what it really means to be royal today. And because she took this step, future royals might feel more confident to do the same. While Anne's words surprised many, it raises a question. Was this only about her own experiences, or does it show a wider feeling inside the family? Anne has always been loyal and committed to her role, but her emotional goodbye showed how even she felt the heavy burden of living by the rules. This moment is not just for her. It invites everyone to think about how things are changing, not just in the royal family, but in the way people view leadership, freedom, and the right to choose their own path. Now the big question remains, will other members of the royal family be inspired to make similar choices? Or will they try to hold everything together and carry on as they always have? Only time will tell, but one thing is certain. Princess Anne's choice has changed the story of the monarchy forever. So what do you think? Will Anne's decision inspire other royals to take control of their own lives? Or will the palace keep following the same old traditions? While you think about it, let's talk about another intriguing drama going on in the royal family. This particular one might be something you've always looked forward to, so keep watching. Laura Lopes, the quiet strength behind the royal curtain. Queen Camilla's journey from a private life to becoming the wife of King Charles III has stirred countless conversations across the globe. Her transformation into a queen consort has been one of the most unexpected and closely followed stories in royal history. But while much of the world's attention is focused on her, there's another person who has quietly lived through the highs and lows of that journey, her daughter, Laura Lopes. Long before Camilla entered the royal family officially in 2005, she was married to Andrew Parker Bowles, a former Army officer. Together they had 2 children, Tom and Laura. Tom, who has occasionally stepped into the public eye, has made a name for himself through his love for food. Laura, on the other hand, chose a much quieter life, keeping herself away from flashing cameras and royal duties. But that silence was recently broken. Laura opened up in a deeply honest way, sharing details about how her mother's rise to the throne affected her. Her words gave everyone a rare look into the challenges faced by someone who never asked for royal attention, but got caught up in it anyway. Her story is touching, personal, and eye-opening, giving people a better understanding of what it really means to be connected to the crown. But before we unveil what she said, let's get a quick catch-up with her background. Laura was born on the first day of 1978 into a world of comfort and wealth, far from the royal gates. Her upbringing was surrounded by upper-class traditions, but not the kind that come with crowns or royal titles. She went to Haywood Preparatory School and later studied art history at Oxford Brookes University. Life was stable, and she enjoyed growing up alongside her brother Tom in what felt like a normal upper-class home. But things started to shift when whispers about her mother's close bond with Charles began to make their way into everyday conversations. Though she was just a child, Laura quickly learned that the world was watching her family. Her mother, Camilla, was often painted by the media as the villain in the story of Prince Charles and Princess Diana. This harsh public view followed Laura everywhere. Teachers, classmates, and even strangers judged her because of who her mother was rumored to be. These constant opinions made life heavy for Laura, who was still learning how relationships worked and what love really meant. She was forced to grow up quickly, trying to understand the complicated world around her. She has spoken about how her younger years were not peaceful, but filled with tension between what the world thought of her mother and the loving woman she knew at home. In 1995, her parents divorced, another event that left a mark on Laura's heart. Even though the adults around her tried to protect her from the newspapers and rumors, the weight of it all was hard to ignore. Yet, no matter how hard things got, Laura always looked up to her mother. She admired how Camilla stayed strong, even when she was being torn apart in the media. Her mother's ability to carry herself with grace left a deep impression on Laura. Then came 2025, the year everything changed. Camilla became the Duchess of Cornwall when she married Charles, and Laura's world shifted completely. Unlike Charles's sons, William and Harry, Laura was not born into royalty. She was already an adult when she found herself suddenly linked to the royal family in a way she hadn't chosen. This change was difficult for her. Her life, once private, was now open to the world. Attending royal events meant being in front of flashing cameras, facing crowds, and following traditions she never grew up with. Though she supported her mother, Laura often felt like she didn't belong in that world. The attention made her uncomfortable. Big events, where she had to act a certain way or follow certain rules, were especially hard for someone who just wanted to live quietly. Another part of Laura's story that people find really interesting is her connection to her stepbrothers, Prince William and Prince Harry. Even though they are now part of the same extended family, their relationship has always seemed a bit distant. They are respectful to each other, but not particularly close. It's not hard to see why. William and Harry have both spoken about the pain they felt from their parents' split and their father's relationship with Camilla. Those deep emotional wounds created a natural distance between them and Laura. She wasn't part of their childhood, and the history they share is full of sadness and uncomfortable memories. Laura understood that and never tried to push her way into their lives. Through all of this, Laura has remained calm and private. Her recent honesty about what it was like growing up during one of the royal family's most dramatic chapters gave people a fresh view of her life. It showed that while the world watched Camilla's rise to the throne, someone else was quietly living through the same story, feeling the weight of it in a different way. Laura never asked for a royal connection, but she handled it with grace. Her story is a reminder that behind every public figure, there are family members facing battles we never see. People close to the royal family have shared that in the early years after Camilla married King Charles, things weren't always peaceful behind closed doors. Laura and Prince William reportedly had a few emotional clashes. William, still mourning his mother Princess Diana and feeling loyal to her memory, sometimes pointed fingers at Camilla, blaming her for a lot of the pain his mother went through. Laura, who has always been very protective of her own mother, didn't just sit back quietly. She believed that her mother had been unfairly judged and insisted that Prince Charles also played a big part in the heartache their families endured. These arguments didn't come from hatred, but from two people trying to deal with the same situation in totally different ways. Each of them carried their own emotional wounds and defended the parent they loved the most. But while emotions sometimes ran high in private, Laura never brought those disagreements into the public eye. She chose a path of silence, unlike Prince Harry, who later opened up to the world about his painful experiences with the royal family. When Harry's book, Spare, came out, it stirred up a lot of old feelings. In it, he painted a harsh picture of Queen Camilla, calling her someone who cared more about how people saw her than how her actions affected others. Laura didn't say anything publicly about the book, but those close to her revealed that the words hit her hard. Being painted in such a negative light by someone connected to her family reopened deep emotional wounds and made her already fragile connection with her stepbrothers even more complicated. Even with all this happening around her, Laura stayed focused on her own journey. She built a beautiful career in the art world, staying far from royal life. She didn't rely on titles or family status. Laura worked with respected institutions, like the Peggy Guggenheim Collection in Venice, and later became a co-founder of a London gallery called 11, where she supported up-and-coming artists. Her passion for art became more than a job. It was her way of standing on her own. People who know her often describe Laura as strong, calm, and uninterested in fame or attention. Even after her mom officially became queen consort, Laura didn't let that change her. She kept her head down and stayed committed to her career and her quiet, private life. In her personal life, too, Laura built something real and grounded. In 2006, she married Harry Lopes, a man who once worked as a model and later became a chartered accountant. Their wedding took place at a peaceful church in Wiltshire and brought together both the Parker Bowles and royal families. Laura wore a gown designed by Anna Valentine, the same fashion designer who created Camilla's dress when she married Charles, a gentle way of showing her deep connection with her mother. Laura and Harry later welcomed 3 children into their world, a daughter named Eliza and twin sons, Gus and Louis. From the very beginning, Laura made it her mission to give them a calm, normal life. She wanted to protect them from the weight and noise of being linked to the royal family. Although Eliza was seen briefly by the public as a bridesmaid during Prince William and Kate Middleton's wedding in 2011, Laura has since kept her children out of the public eye. She's always believed that growing up in peace, away from flashing cameras and royal expectations, was more important than attending royal gatherings. Her focus has always been on giving her family a warm, safe, and ordinary home, one where love mattered more than titles or public image. Even though Laura has always tried to keep her personal life away from the spotlight, her close ties to the royal family often pull her back into the public eye. No matter how much she values her privacy, certain big royal events have made her presence unavoidable. One of the most unforgettable moments was during the coronation of King Charles III and Queen Camilla in 2023. On that day, Laura's twin boys took part as pages of honor, standing beside their grandmother. It was a deeply touching moment that seemed to represent the coming together of Camilla's past and present family. But even with her children playing such a visible role, people noticed that Laura stayed quietly in the background, clearly not comfortable with the attention. Those who've been around her say that while she handles public duties with grace, she usually keeps to herself and avoids too much interaction with other royal family members. One of the most meaningful parts of Laura's life is her relationship with her mother. She truly admires Camilla's strength and how she managed to rise above all the criticism she faced over the years. But at the same time, Laura understands how hard it was for their family to go through everything that came with Camilla's connection to Charles. When Camilla fully stepped into her role in the royal family, it slowly created some space between her and Laura. They lost many of the private and ordinary moments they once shared as mother and daughter. Still, their bond remains deeply rooted. Some say Laura is Camilla's closest companion, the one person she can always count on during hard times. In fact, insiders even claim that Laura is the only person Queen Camilla feels truly nervous around, not because of fear, but because of how much she values her daughter's thoughts and support. That speaks volumes about their closeness and the deep trust they share. Being in the public eye hasn't been easy for Laura. The media has followed her life closely, covering everything from her wedding day to the births of her children. And while Laura has accomplished so much on her own, it often feels like those achievements are ignored. Instead, attention keeps drifting back to her mother's history and the royal drama that seems to follow them. It's something Laura has found tough to deal with. She's worked very hard to build a path that belongs to her alone. But with Queen Camilla and King Charles now at the center of the monarchy, it's become even harder for Laura to escape the spotlight, no matter how much she wants to. Things haven't always been smooth in Laura's career either. She once opened a fashion boutique called Mojo and McCoy with some friends. The shop was located in the charming town of Hungerford and carried stylish, high-end clothing aimed at wealthy shoppers in the area. At first, the business looked promising, but despite all the effort she put into it, the store didn't do as well as hoped and eventually had to close down. It was a tough moment for Laura, but she didn't give up. According to people close to her, she may ask King Charles for advice before starting anything new. She's seen how he handles difficult situations and respects his ability to keep moving forward, no matter the obstacles. This also shows how Laura's relationship with her stepfather has changed over time. She has come to see him as someone she can turn to for support and guidance when things get rough. There are often whispers about what's next for Laura. From time to time, stories pop up about the possibility of her or her brother Tom receiving royal titles. But both of them have always shut down those rumors. Laura has made it clear she doesn't want a royal role or the responsibilities that come with it. She just wants a life filled with love, peace, and time with her family. She remains dedicated to her work in the art world and keeps doing everything she can to stay grounded and away from the pressures of royal fame. Still, no matter how far she tries to step back, Laura's connection to the crown will likely always be there. She is, after all, the daughter of Queen Camilla, and with her ongoing presence at major royal events, her quiet strength as a daughter, and her loving care as a mother, Laura's place beside the royal family remains quietly but firmly in the picture. Aside from Laura, Tom Parker Bowles has also been in the spotlight, and what was reported about him is not nice at all. Tom's courtroom drama. It was just an ordinary Tuesday morning with nothing unusual in the air. Still, something quietly unfolded in one of London's most hidden corners. Tom Parker Bowles showed up at a dull, unmarked government building tucked away in the quiet, diplomatic part of the city. There were no flashing lights, no reporters waiting, and not even a single crowd gathered. This wasn't the kind of place you'd expect to see someone like him. The entrance looked plain, and the security around it was tight. The guards didn't wear uniforms or show badges, but you could tell by their serious looks and calm movements that they were highly trained and not to be messed with. Tom wasn't wearing anything flashy either. He had on a simple gray suit that didn't say much about who he was. He walked in through a side door and vanished from public sight. To many, he was known as a respected food critic and author, someone who had managed to build his own name even while being closely connected to the royal family. But that day, his face gave away nothing. He looked calm, like someone who had already accepted whatever was about to happen. As the doors closed behind him, everything changed. Inside, the place didn't feel like a regular courtroom. Someone who had seen it described the setting more like a private hearing than anything to do with actual law. The room was tiny, had no windows, and only a handful of people were present. 3 serious-looking judges sat at the front. The lawyers didn't even use their full names. And strangely, Tom didn't choose his defense team. They were picked by someone else, most likely the authorities handling the situation. This didn't feel like justice being served. It felt more like a well-covered operation meant to protect something bigger. No public record ever showed what he was officially accused of. But according to people connected to diplomatic security, the issue was tied to secret interactions Tom had with certain people from overseas. Some of them worked with foreign media, while others were suspected of being linked to international intelligence groups. Apparently, he had been monitored for some time. What started off as casual talks with chefs and reporters had slowly shifted into something deeper and riskier. Someone who used to work closely with Tom, though they wanted to stay unnamed, shared that over time, his conversations turned to more dangerous topics. He had reportedly talked about the daily routines of the royal family, how their security worked, and, most shocking of all, private discussions between high-level royals and government leaders. The nature of the information he was believed to have shared went far beyond simple gossip. This wasn't about private scandals or petty drama. This was about the sensitive space where the monarchy quietly meets the world of politics, a place most people are too afraid to go near. During the entire hearing, which lasted 7 long hours, Tom sat quietly. He stayed respectful and calm, just like how people remembered him from interviews and public events. He only spoke when asked, and he didn't try to defend himself with angry words. People who were there said he looked like a man who had already made peace with what was coming, like he knew this was his fate from the beginning. When the final decision was made that evening, it shocked even those who thought it would be serious. Tom wasn't going to be sent to prison, at least not in the usual way. The judgment was something far more extreme. He was to be taken to a secret location immediately. There, he wouldn't be allowed any contact with the outside world. No phone, no internet, no writing, and no visitors unless approved by a higher authority. The official reason given was protective isolation for national security, but everyone knew what it really meant. Tom Parker Bowles was being removed from public life permanently. As he was being taken out through a private exit, he turned to the lead security officer and quietly gave a final message. So, what do you think about these royal dramas? Do you think that this was why Queen Elizabeth wrote a letter to her son? Let's hear from you in the comments. Remember to hit the like button and subscribe. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.